winter squashes in all the stores and in the farmers markets right now, and I am loving it. My favorite winter squash of all is the butternut squash. And this is so easy to identify when you see it in a big bin of squash because of its shape. It has this chubby little bottom and then a long slender neck. Now, it still has the thick skin of winter squash, but what I love about it is the color and the buttery, nutty flavor inside. Now you can see inside it's just kind of a bright tangerine color. And one thing you'll discover as you start to cut up a butternut squash is that all of the seeds are in that chubby little bottom and the top is seedless. So it's good to know if you just have to use part of your squash, you don't need the whole thing, then I always start with the top because it's easiest. But the bottom has all the seeds, and to get those seeds out and to get the skin off. Now the skin is thick, but it's still thin enough that you could use a vegetable peeler. I find it easier and quicker to just use my knife. Then I cut it in half through the middle lengthwise. And there you can see the seeds are. So I take my grapefruit spoon, just scoop out those seeds, and then my butternut squash is ready to cut up. Because my favorite way to prepare butternut squash is to roast it. So I cut it up in cubes, put it on a baking sheet or sometimes in my cast iron skillet. I drizzle it with a little bit of olive oil, probably about a tablespoon for 3 cups or a pound of cubed butternut squash. And then I mix it up with my hands just to make sure that all the pieces are coated with oil. And then I simply sprinkle it with some salt, probably about half a teaspoon for a pound. And then I love to have some flavors of fresh herbs infused right into the squash. And today I'm using sage. I think fresh sage just is such a complementary flavor to butternut squash. But rather than mincing it up and sprinkling it in, I'm just going to lay a few clean leaves right over the top. I've already washed these. Then I'm going to put this into a 400-degree oven, flip it after about 15 minutes, put it in for 10 minutes more, and my squash will be nice and tender, and it will look like this. You can see that it gets a little bit caramelized, and now it's ready to stir into some creamy risotto. Today, I'm making some soup. I've sauteed some onions and carrots and celery, a little bit of garlic, and I chopped up a couple potatoes. Just put some water or broth over everything to cover it, and then simmer it until the potatoes are tender. I'm Sue Doden, sharing good food for good life, 365.